Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, for 1 year as we read through St. Faustina's diary. Join me, Amy Thomas, each day for a short reading out of the diary which brought us a deeper understanding of Christ's divine mercy. Welcome, Catholic pilgrims, to day 281 of our readings from St. Faustina's diary. The Catholic Church has 7 sacraments, and those sacraments are more than just nice symbolic ceremonies. The sacraments actually affect a change within us in some fashion. Some of them mark our souls with an indelible character. You are marked through life as a child of God, through your baptism. Priests are marked with an indelible mark to be priests forever. So the sacraments actually do something. And the most perfect sacrament of all is the Eucharist, because the other sacraments do impart grace on us. They impart sacramental grace to help us live out that sacrament fully and completely. And they also give us sanctifying grace, which is a share in the divine life of God. But the Eucharist is actually the taking in of God, in a very physical way. And so it's just massively important. And Sister Faustina understands this fully and completely. She pretty much always talks about how it's Holy Communion that helps her to do pretty much everything. And so that's what we're going to talk about today in Notebook 5, numbers 1388 through 1393. During one time of prayer, I learned how pleasing to God was the soul of Father Andres. He is a true child of God. It is rare that divine sonship shines forth so clearly in a soul, and this because he has a special devotion to the Mother of God. Oh my Jesus, although I have such very strong impulsions, I am to act on them slowly, and this only in order not to spoil your work with my haste. Oh my Jesus, you give me to know your mysteries, and you want me to transmit them to other souls. Soon now it will be possible for me to act. At the moment of apparent absolute destruction, my mission, now no longer hindered by anything, will begin. Such is the will of God in this, and it will not change. Although many persons will oppose it, nothing will change God's will. I see Father Sapotsko, how his mind is busily occupied and working in God's cause in order to present the wishes of God to the officials of the Church. As a result of his efforts, a new light will shine in the Church of God for the consolation of souls. Although for the present his soul is filled with bitterness, as though that were to be the reward for his efforts in the cause of the Lord, this will not, however, be the case. I see his joy, which nothing will diminish. God will grant him some of this joy already here on earth. I have never before come upon such great faithfulness to God as distinguishes this soul. During supper in the refectory today, I felt God's gaze in the depths of my heart. Such a vivid presence pervaded my soul that for a while I had no idea where I was. The sweet presence of God kept filling my soul, and at times I could not understand what the sisters were saying to me. All the good that is in me is due to Holy Communion. I owe everything to it. I feel that this holy fire has transformed me completely. Oh, how happy I am to be a dwelling place for you, O Lord. My heart is a temple in which you dwell continually. Jesus, the light of my soul, bread of angels, my whole being is plunged in you, and I live your divine life as do the elect in heaven. And the reality of this life will not cease, though I be laid in the grave. Jesus, Eucharist, immortal God, who dwell in my heart without cease. When I possess you, death itself can do me no harm. Love tells me that I will see you at life's end. Permeated by your divine life, I gaze with assurance at the heavens thrown open for me, and death will shamefacedly go away empty-handed, for your divine life is contained within my soul. And although by your holy will, O Lord, death is to touch my body, I want this dissolution to come as quickly as possible, for through it I am entering eternal life. Jesus, Eucharist, life of my soul, you have raised me up to the eternal spheres, and this, by your agony and death missed terrible tortures. So earlier this week, when I was teaching religion to my daughter, we came across this quote, and I have to share it with you because it's remarkable. It really is. So this is a quote from a famous Protestant biblical scholar from Germany. His name was Julius Wellhausen. And he was asked what the difference is between the Lutheran and the Catholic divine service. Here's what he had to say. The Lutheran service is the same as the Catholic service, except that its heart has been cut out. Isn't that incredible? Mr. Wellhausen was Lutheran. And when my daughter and I read that, we both kind of looked at each other like, why in the world did he stay Lutheran? I don't know for sure if he did. I was trying to do a little bit of research on him before I did this podcast. And he was a biblical scholar at one of the universities in Germany. And he also was a professor of theology. And at one point, he actually stepped down because he said his conscience could no longer go on teaching students to be prepared in Protestant theology. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if he just felt he was inadequate. I don't know if he was being pricked to maybe search out the Catholic faith. I honestly don't know. Maybe he was becoming a doubter, an atheist or an agnostic. I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot on him, and I don't hardly know anything about him. But man, what a profound statement, isn't it? To say that he belongs to a church that has had its heart cut out. I would love to ask him, then why did you stay? Why would you stay with anything where you felt like the heart, the center of it has been cut out? Just unbelievable. But what a telling sentence, isn't it? Why does the Catholic Church have a heart? Because it has Christ there physically present within our churches. And what's so frustrating to me is that so much of Protestantism is a watering down of even what occurred in the Old Testament. So we know that everything in the Old Testament was the lead up to the New. There was so many foreshadowings, so many prophecies, so many types in the Old Testament that were all to point towards Christ, And so in the New Testament, everything has to be greater, better, bigger, never less, never less. And so much of Protestantism is taking even what was in the Old Testament and watering it down to something even weaker. It's like a weak tea. But the Catholic Church recognizes that, yes, everything in the Old Testament was the lead up to Christ. And there was sacrifice in the temple by a high priest to make up for sins. But an animal can never truly make up for the sins of man. And so you have to have a human make up for human sins. But there's no way that any human on earth is perfect enough or good enough to ever make up for all of us. And they're limited, they're finite. So you need a human, but you also need someone divine. And there we have it with Jesus Christ. Fully human, fully God, fully able to make up for human sins because he is human, but fully able to satisfy for God's justice because he is divine and infinite. And it's remarkable. And so at the Last Supper, he was kind of preluding to what was going to happen there on the cross, the most perfect sacrifice of all time that goes on for forever. And so the sacrifice on the cross is the same sacrifice that occurs in our Catholic churches every day, all around the world, 24/7. It's an infinite sacrifice. It just goes on and on and on. And to water it down into something that's symbolic is almost even less than what the Old Testament people were doing. It's so watered down. And it honestly, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Because when you have Christ fully present in the Eucharist, body, blood, soul, and divinity, that is the greater thing. And it changes everything. It's a game changer for everything. And it's so beautiful and it's so perfect that it would be greater than anything that we've ever seen. And Sister Faustina understands this. She fully gets it. She says here, all the good that is in me is due to Holy Communion. Because you are taking in Christ. He dwells within your soul. She even says it, my heart is a temple in which you dwell continually, as she goes to communion so much. And then just this beautiful poem here at the end. Jesus, delight of my soul, bread of angels. She just is recognizing how his life lives within her. She says it here in the third little paragraph. For your divine life is contained within my soul. Because not only does she have the sacraments, she's taken, probably all the sacraments that she could possibly take. And so she has that sanctifying grace, which is the divine life of Christ dwelling within you. That can go away when we commit mortal sins, and venial sins lessen it, but mortal sin is what completely pushes it out. But when we receive Holy Communion and we are forgiven of our venial sins, then all that sanctifying grace comes back and we're restored. And that's why if you take it frequently, you are on the road to holiness. I don't know if there's a saint out there that wasn't taking communion at least daily. I mean, maybe there was because they were at war or fighting off somewhere where there wasn't a priest or something like that, but they wanted to. They definitely wanted to. And so the Eucharist then is the real taking in of God. And that's going to change us. She says, I feel this holy fire has transformed me completely, and it will. Taking God within ourselves is going to transform us completely. And that's what makes it so miraculous, so beautiful, and so much better than anything symbolic that is out there. So, if you are struggling with believing that Christ is really in the Eucharist, just remember, no miracle is above God, right? If you believe that he resurrected, if you believed that he ascended into heaven, if you believed he walked on the water, if you believed that he multiplied the fishes and the loaves and raised Lazarus from the dead and all these things, then why limit him by saying he couldn't possibly be in the Eucharist? That's just a limitation that we're putting on God because of our limitation to fully grasp it. So that is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. I will see you back here for day 282. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.